to take the family on a vacation, like probably in like in August or so. I think
Nice.
there's a camping trip in Pennsylvania that I'm thinking about taking.
Oh,
them
cool.
On, so yeah.
Is that the Sufi one?
Yeah, you heard about it?
I've heard about it. One of my friends went on it.
Really?
Really enjoyed it. Just this past year, him and his wife went to it, and they loved it.
Who's your friend?
Sohaib Bindawi.
He's from Chicago?
He's from Chicago. Yeah, he grew up in Virginia.
Really?
He's
Okay.
an Algerian guy.
No, I don't.
He does filmmaking.
His sister's the one that did is Asia Bundawi?
Asia is his sister, yeah.
I think I met him.
Okay.
I think I met him. Yeah. I actually was thinking about that documentary. Have you seen it?
Feeling of Being Watched, yeah. It was really great.
Where
Super well done.
where can you get that?
They have feelingofbeingwatched.com.
Yeah?
Free to stream for anyone.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out because I was just thinking for some reason, I don't know why, and we're recording by the way. This is fine.
It's fine.
It's a good conversation.
It is.
But this idea of because I'm not a native Bridgeview guy.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Where are you from?
I'm from Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
Okay. I moved to Chicago about 15 years ago.
Okay.
And but like my kids go to UXA, we're in the area. We've been in the area now since 2014. Mm-hmm. And so you hear about this stuff. And I remember hearing about it back around 9/11 in Ohio. Because it hit national waves, the news, right? And Moss Foundation's I have a friend from Columbus when I grew up. He was always telling me like his dream was to move to Bridgeview and buy one of those like mansions by the masjid, right? Yeah. So I gotta check it out for some time. But first of all, listeners, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another episode of Sultans and Sneakers. I'm your host, as always, Mahin, the podcaster, and today I am blessed to have Jumha Aburezeq for the first time doing an in-person video audio show in my house.
Yeah, and again, I really love the setup, dude. I feel very cozy right now.
Yeah.
Like really great conversation setup.
For sure. I mean, I think that this could work. I've always thought about like my in-laws used to live with me. We have their suite, and I've always tried to pitch my wife, why don't we just use that as a studio space?
Yeah.
But I'm like, it does take some time to set this up. But I feel like having it in a living room with this kind of openness versus like a bedroom is probably a better setup. And I'm not gonna like, how often am I gonna do a recording like this, like at my house, once in a blue moon, right? Because usually one of my things I try to do is I try to go to my guests because it's easier for them. Yeah. Right. But you live pretty close, so it actually made more sense for me because it took me about 45 minutes to set up. Like sometimes the problem with that is when you go somewhere, it's 45 minutes and the dude just waiting. Yeah. Right. This way you can just walk in and we're pretty much ready to go.
Yeah. Efficient.
So I think it's a better experience in that sense. But yeah, man. So I actually found out about you, I want to say a year ago, maybe a little bit longer, because you did a show. I think you interviewed, or I think you did cross interviews with my friend Subi Sadeh.
Yeah.
And he was on your show, right?
He was. He was first on my show. Yeah. And then he got inspired to make a podcast because of that.
Right.
And so he has his podcast now, The Combinate.
Exactly, right. So me and him are in the same industry, so I remember hearing that, and I remember hearing about you in theory in the past, because Subi and I were talking maybe like 3 years ago or something, and I had gotten some advice that, because I was trying to lose weight, like everybody, like most people are, right? And this guy told me, and this guy who's got some cred, kind of in the Muslim community, I won't mention my name, but he was like, oh, you need to drop like 1,600 calories. Like, because if you want to hit this weight, all you got to do is multiply by Tedis factor and do that, that whole. And I was just like, I didn't even try, because it seems so absurd, meaning that like I'm literally gonna be starving myself. Yeah. And I thought maybe if I do intermittent fasting, that's why I swung it by him. Okay. And he was like, Mahin, you should get a coach. And he didn't say who, he just said theoretically just get one, because that just sounds like not like a lot of food at all. Yeah. Right?
It's definitely not a lot for a grown man.
You know what I mean? So anyways, long story short, I did find a coach, not you, but then I heard you on his show, and I figured I'd reached out, and then we were planning. I think we've been talking for like 8 months.
Yeah. Just quick little back and forth, trying to get the idea going. But I'm happy to be here now.
Absolutely. So tell me about how you got into the fitness space. Was that something you were passionate about as a kid?
Well, my first introduction into fitness was in high school. Really. Okay. Right. I was trying to get stronger to perform better in football, essentially. Right. Okay. Improve my athletic pursuit. Sure. But my education around it really came from the bodybuilding world. So I really got motivated to continue to learn about that, continue to learn about nutrition, for my own benefit more so.
Yep.
And then I got really good results over the span of the first couple of years of me doing that. I started helping friends do it, started making plans for other people, you know, and when I was in college, I needed a better job to pay for school. I was working at Papa John's. It wasn't doing the job for me. So I got my personal training certificate. I figured, you know, I'm good at this. It pays 3 times the amount. Might as well do it while I'm in college. So I kind of went into that route. Had a lot of fun doing it. Made a good name for myself. I worked at this export in Chicago Ridge. And
is that how you know Ahmed?
Yeah, that's pretty much how I know Ahmed. We used to play football together too, growing up. Him and his brother.
Okay.
We used to play football against each other.
FYI, Ahmed was my coach. That's who I ended up hiring.
Yeah.
Because he just happened to be in the right place at the right time when I was looking.
Yeah, and he was he worked there for a little bit while, like, toward the end of my tenure there.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had a good overlap there too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up graduating college with my mechanical engineering degree. I was telling you about that.
Yep.
And I couldn't really get into looking for a job or even getting a job. I had a couple interviews that didn't really go too far, and everything I was doing with fitness was going really well. Yeah. And I found out that people do online coaching as a full-time career.
Right.
So I looked into it, took the leap, and I've been doing it since for the last like 4 or 5 years.
Okay. So it sounds like mechanical engineering. Why did you pick that field though? Is that something? Oh, that sounds like a good degree.
Yeah.
Typical advice in that sense. I have a degree in mechanical engineering myself, so
yeah.
It's almost like it was like after I fiddled around for a few years, just doing like random majors. My dad's like, "Hey, listen, if I'm gonna keep paying for this thing, you got to do that."
Buckle down. Yeah, I went into my last year of high school, going between engineering as my secondary option, because I was just really good at math and science. Like I always scored really well on those.
Right.
And my first thing though that I wanted to get into was sports nutrition and kind of like sports rehab, physical therapy kind of deal, but specifically for athletes. And I was talking to my mom about it. She's like, you know, I feel like engineering is better. This, that. I'm like, yeah, you know, this. She talked me into it, and you know, she's just looking out for me. I don't want to make my mom seem like a bad guy or anything.
Right.
But by the end of it, I realized, like, man, I just happened to be working as a personal trainer by chance, and realized, like, hey, I actually really love doing this. This is a lot of fun. It's very fulfilling. It's very rewarding. So I just, you know, made the decision afterwards. It wasn't a loss for me necessarily.
You just reminded me. There was a classmate of mine at Ohio State where I went for ME, and this guy was into, like, looking back, because I didn't grow up in that kind of culture of like wanting to work out.
Yeah.
My friends weren't into that. And we could talk about that like phenomenon. I want to dig into a little bit. But I remember a classmate of mine, I forget his name, but he was a strong student too. He had like a 3.7, but I remember he was jacked.
Yeah.
And he was always had his meal prep, chicken and rice and his protein shakes. And this is like 2005, 2006.
Right.
And he was also in my but he was specifically going to medical school. He was a BS ME, and he wanted to go to medical school. And I think he was interested in like the biomechanics. So there is a lot of mechanical engineering stuff that can be used for like people who want to get into. So looking back, if somebody had an interest in engineering, but like wanted to infuse it with like personal fitness, physical fitness, and that exercise science kind of stuff, there's a huge industry in medical devices, like prosthetics and that kind of thing. Or biomechanics, right? That's pretty interesting if people wanted to. And I think for anyone listening to this who's maybe in school, I think different, because a lot of times people go into these degrees, like college kids really, and I talked about this on a previous show, we don't really know what we want to do because we just don't know what's out there. But I think the earlier you start talking to folks, you can actually say, okay, and if you come in as a 23-year-old, really niched in, be like, hey, I'm dialed in, and you go to some company like Stryker, they're a medical device company, and they were like, well, this kid actually he's more differentiating than another kid, so to speak. I was talking to, by the way, on a side note, this kid, 23-year-old at work. He's a contractor.
Okay.
We're chatting in the hallway yesterday, right before Jumha. He stopped. I'm like about to head out. I see him in the hallway. We're chatting for like 10 minutes, and you know, he's kind of like in a standstill in his career. You know, he's kind of like feeling. You know, I don't know how you feel as far as like younger people. Sometimes they feel like their life is ending because they don't know what they want to do. I'm like, dude, you're 23. Like, if I knew what I knew when I was 23, you know, being 41 right now, it'd be amazing. And he's into working out, and he's brown. And I told him that, you know what? There's a market for like fitness for like brown guys, because it's completely like untapped, right? I've been thinking a lot about it, like myself. Like there is how many brown dudes in their 40s, dad bods, and they're dropping of heart attacks, like late 40s. I don't know if you're aware of this. Right?
Yeah, I get a lot of brown clients.
Yeah.
That's their biggest fear. They're 30, they're 40, they're like, my dad's having heart issues, it runs in the family,
Right.
I'm trying to get ahead of it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a big market for that. And I was telling him, like, you're already lifting, you're into that kind of stuff. Why don't, he's like, yeah, he knows it, he recognizes it, right? So I'm like, yeah, because he's like, man, I want to live a life, I'm 23, I want to live it up. I'm like, nah, bro, you're like, work your job and then go get your hustle on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? After, because when you're 30, 35, you're going to be like, you're not going to care about some party. Like, okay, go enjoy yourself. But like, when you're living for the weekend, every weekend, or after work, well, on top of that, are you going to, is it meaningful? No. Does it like, are you going to remember it? Like, oh, that was awesome. I got freaking hammered every weekend or whatever, right? He doesn't seem like that kind of guy, but he still wants to like enjoy himself, you know, whatever.
I understand, yeah.
So I think that's where I was just kind of saying like, hey, maybe you think about the personal fitness route or as a trainer or something, get into that since you're already into working out and you know there's a market here. Why don't you get into it? I want to ask you, you're Palestinian?
Yes.
Okay, I just had to assume you're British. Like,
that's a good assumption.
There is a, I feel like within the Muslim community, Palestinians or Arabs tend to be more geared towards working out. It's within their culture amongst guys growing up, I've noticed, than like brown guys, like Desis, for example. I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
But like I'll go to like, so I've met you probably know, we talked about Ahmed, you know Ahmed Sarhan. There's in just this area, I go to USA Gym, you know, I don't know, you know, Relentless, Omar.
I know
Omar, yeah. So it's all, now granted it's Bridgeview, but if I go to like the north side of Chicago, I'm not gonna see, like I might see a casual like guy just going to the gym who's brown. Yeah. But not some dude who's like dialed in.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's you're right. It's, I don't know what it is. It's in our blood or something.
Yeah.
Maybe if it's like an epigenetic kind of situation where we always want to be strong for whatever reason. And that starts from when we're really young.
Okay.
You know, I was just talking with a friend yesterday. In high school and all the high schools in the surrounding area. Right. Wrestling, powerlifting, football. Yeah. You know, those are the only sports you ever saw Arab people in. Right. Right. They always wanted to learn how to fight. They always wanted to be the strongest person in the room. Right. And that was always something that, I don't know, they just everyone just naturally loved to do.
Is that something your parents like instilled in you as a kid, or it just it wasn't even necessary?
It wasn't necessary, but I think there is, you know, from the dads, a desire for their children to be strong, you know, strong-willed, physically strong, being able to support and help those around them. Okay. So, you know, we look to follow through with that pursuit in order to make our dad proud or in order to make our parents proud and be that strong person for ourselves too. Okay. So I feel like it kind of comes from that, to be honest with you. But yeah, it starts, again, you know, we're taught that as a young age. I know I have memories of like being 4 years old and my dad always said, you need to have a firm handshake, you know, make sure you squeeze the guy's hand nice and tight so that they know that, okay, this is a real man, you know, shaking someone's hand.
I got you.
So all these little subtle things add up.
For real. So let me ask a little bit about your approach to coaching. But before that, like, were you ever like the fat kid, or you were always, because I'll tell you why I'm asking. Because it seems like, from my observation, as someone who I've consumed your content on YouTube and Instagram, you seem to be very realistic with clients. A lot of coaches, it's almost like this is the blueprint, this will work for them, and this is it. If you don't like it, don't do it. You can't, it won't work, right? But you seem to be someone, it almost feels like you've been through a lot of phases, even though you may not have. Does that make sense? Like, like, were you like the fat kid growing up that tried a lot of different things and then found different things to work, or were things always stream? I'm going to assume if you said you played football in high school that you generally didn't have any issues.
Yeah, no, I was always the athlete. Okay. That was always my thing. In high school, though, I was really skinny. I was just athletic and skinny. I was 6 feet tall, 5'11". Yep. And I think I was 140 pounds when I started working out. Right, which is really small. Right now I'm 210 pounds. It's a huge difference. Right. I did, you know, overdo my growth and got to like 230. Yeah. with a higher body fat percentage.
Okay.
So I did have to come back down, but 205 is usually where I sit right now.
Okay.
So I did kind of go both. I went more, obviously, higher percentage of my fitness career trying to build muscle and get bigger. But really, what you see in my coaching and how I preach and trying to be realistic, it's just come from working with people and just seeing people's struggles and being empathetic.
Okay.
Because when a mom of 3 is told, like, hey, this is the blueprint, you either get it or you're going to be stuck where you're at, right? And this is some single 20-year-old guy telling her that she has to wake up at 6 a.m. every single morning, 5 days a week,
right,
and do 2 hours of workouts, right? That mom is going to be, devastated. She's like, man, I'm just stuck like this. I can't do anything about it. When in reality, there is something they can do about it, but the coach, whether, for personal reasons or otherwise, didn't want to show them or design their own program in a way that would benefit them as well, right? It's kind of like the one size fits all. It makes it easy for you to give it to everybody without you needing to do extra work.
Right.
But for me, the most important thing, and this is like innately in me as well, is wanting to help people and make sure that they have a good experience. They get something improved in their life in one way or another.
Can you describe your maybe first 1 or 2 clients and what their like avatar would be, like what their goals were, where they were at, and what they were able to do as far as time commitment?
Yeah. So my first 1 or 2, that's a good throwback. My first client ever, I still text her from time to time. This is my first in-person client at Export.
And this is when you were studying at IIT?
Yeah. Okay. I was a junior in college.
It's called Illinois Tech, right, now?
Yeah, Illinois Institute of Technology.
No, but don't they?
Illinois Tech is a different school.
I thought they nicknamed it Illinois Tech. No?
That I don't know about.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Illinois, you're talking about...
That sounds familiar, though.
You're talking about Illinois...
On 35th and State.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, okay, yeah.
So yeah, maybe, I don't know. But my first client ever, she was a 65-year-old African-American woman.
Right.
She was pre-diabetic, had hypertension, so high blood pressure, and she had a lot of joint pain overall. She was semi-retired, she worked part-time, and she took care of one of her daughters, who was an adult, but supported them.
And she found you because she just came to Export, and you were one of the trainers.
It was actually pure chance. I had an appointment that was supposed to come at that time.
Okay.
It wasn't her.
Yeah.
But she saw me smiling, and she's like, "You had a very inviting smile," so I went to you.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Wow, this is great." I ended up working with her for like 2 years.
Okay.
To help her lose the weight and get to where she's at. So that was my first ever client. So not directly exactly like my situation, right? I was helping a completely different situation, but it was a great learning experience, and I got to see other people's struggles.
Right.
And my second client was actually a truck driver, like 35-year-old guy, just had a lot of joint pain and a beer belly, and he wanted to get rid of it.
Right.
So 2 pretty different people, but again, really great learning experience overall.
Gotcha. I'm always paranoid. Check.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
In the middle of like you record, you're like, wait a second, is something on?
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So, did Export train you in like approaching their clients at their level?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was lucky to have the fitness manager that I had. Okay. Because he was the longest tenured fitness manager. Yeah. And he had just started the same time I started.
Right.
Yeah. So it was great learning from him.
Oh, sorry.
I think my fault.
Yeah.
Should we go good?
We're good. It's still going.
Go ahead, double check.
Yeah, you're good. All right. Okay. Yeah. I was like, why is that thing vibrating or something? I was like,
I didn't realize I was touching it.
Okay.
But yeah, I was really lucky to have the fitness manager I had because he really taught it to me. Like, listen, you got your certification. Right. You know how to structure a workout. Right. But that doesn't help you with this specific person at this specific time. So how can you assess where they're at, understand their body better than they do, and help them get to where they want to be, right? And tailor things to them. Mm-hmm. So I would spend, any break I had talking with him and trying to game plan different situations and scenarios and how I would do this and how I would do this, build out their plan over a longer period of time so that they get to their goal, right? They have that roadmap. And then from there, it was just applying those principles to the different clientele that came by.
Do you recommend someone start at like a chain gym to get their feet wet if they want to become a trainer? Yeah,
I recommend they have to do, so a lot of people want to be an online coach right now, right? I think what you have to do is work with people in person, whether it's in a big box gym or at like Moraine Valley or at a small gym. Anything where you're working with people and helping them in real time is going to be way more valuable than just getting a certification, right? I'm sure like you probably learned way more in your field than you did at school, regarding that. Even though I don't know if your fields are directly related.
Kind of, but you learn more in obviously doing the work.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So you can't become a good coach just from getting a certification. That just told you how to work out. It told you about the anaerobic system. It doesn't. You're not necessarily qualified to be able to help everyone.
So like it's funny though. So I troll my IG followers sometimes, right?
Okay.
I forgot what I said recently. I think no, because people will ask me, like I will post my like protein intake daily, occasionally my macros, and people are asking me, like my friends are hitting me up, and some of them are like, hey, we got to meet for coffee. Like, how do you get 180? I'm 180 pounds, 180 grams of protein a day or something, right? I was like, it's impossible. And I was like, and I'll like troll, like, I think one day I had like 240 of protein. And I was like, DM for coaching. I'm not really going to coach them, right? You know what I mean? But it's like, okay, like, because now in this whole online hustle culture, people who know nothing, or it's almost like I've been told some people actually preach this.
Yeah.
If you just know a little bit more than the guy you're trying to get, that's all it takes.
Yeah, and
it's not pretty helpful, but that's what people got to be worried about.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that because on the one hand, it could be someone new that really wants to make this a career, and they just have to start helping someone somewhere, right? And the best person to help is someone a little under you. Yeah. But on the other hand, there's people that take advantage of people for that specific situation, and it just sucks. So intention makes a big difference, on that front.
So you think that the in-person, because Ahmed, he was my coach. He's pretty much online now for the most part. But you're saying you got to start like maybe a year or two doing in-person kind of.
I wouldn't say a year or two. I'd say like definitely work with 50 different people.
Okay. It's more like getting variety of clients.
Variety of clients, variety of situations, and just putting in the reps. A timeline doesn't determine how many reps you put in.
What if you are like you want to niche down? So as we get into So Ahmed was. I tell people that the money I spent on Ahmed, like he's not cheap. Like, and he was on the other podcast I used to call. It's called the Mad Memlukes, and I said there I was like, listen, Ahmed isn't like cheap, right? A lot of coaches aren't cheap, but I always say that the money I spent with him, the first 90-day plan was like the best money I spent in my life. Like every dollar was worth it, right? So people will ask me, and there's people who have reached out and. I was like, hey, can I get his contact? Some of them have tried to work with them, but it didn't work for some reason. So I think so I want to get into a little bit about approaches and stuff. So with me, first of all, my personality is like I'm consuming content like David Goggins, right? I'm listening to this audiobook. Right. If my alarm goes off at like 4 a.m, and I want to sleep, and I'm hearing David Goggins like, "Get up, bitch!" Yeah,
instantly.
You know what I'm saying? But like most people, I don't know if it's most people, but like, some people like hate him because they're like, he's gonna break people down because people are listening to it, and they might be right. Your circumstances, you just can't shock your system because the stuff he's doing is like. You might, and I thought about, so I'm training jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Last night, we have advanced classes that are regular rolling. I've been like hesitant on attending a lot of advanced classes because the mouth guard I got sucks, and I've been trying to get a custom one made, and I'm not like trying to lose any teeth from an inadvertent elbow or something, right? Worth it. You know what I mean? So I've been like pushing it off, but I'm like, and I'm telling myself, man, are you just being a pussy or what? You know? But I just like, no, I'm gonna go home. Maybe I'll go to Dick's and get a temporary mouth guard because I've been trying to get one custom from my from a oral surgeon just to get one done, but rather than being perfect. So, but long story to go back to it is Ahmed's style was like he would he would program me. 4 to 5 weight training sessions a week and a HIIT training, and I have one day off. Now I was able to do it, right, because my wife, my family setup was able to, I have in-law support. Right. When I had schedule issues, he would say, "Okay, well, why don't you go in the morning?" And I work out at USA Gym. Okay, down the street. Down the street, so I can go there before work, get it in. Yeah. So it was able to make it work for me. But those workouts were long, like hour 20, hour 30 minutes. Yeah. Right. I enjoyed the gym. So some people, and so when some guys would hit me up because they saw the results I got, some guys went to Ahmed directly. Yeah. I had some friends that didn't even like. ask me. They just went to him, they hired him, and then, but for some reason, and the thing is with a coach, you can't sometimes blame the coach either, because if you're not going to do the work, it's a, give or take, right?
It is.
But I wonder how much of it was where some people were like, his programming was strict, because sometimes the coach might program something strict because they know if they give you some leeway, it might like lead you off the cliff, or you might not get the results you want.
Yeah, it's very much. So my approach really is a person dependent.
Okay.
I call it individualized nutrition coaching. I tailor everything to each individual person because everyone is different. Right. Because like you said, you were able to stick to that. You have David Goggins in the back of your head motivating you, right? Your lifestyle allowed for you to commit that kind of time as well, which is great. Right. But that's not always accessible and true for everybody. Yeah. Right. And it's not fair to force them to change their entire life to fit that plan. Right. I approach it the other way around. There's people that want to take fitness to the next level and make it a big part of their identity, right? They want to be the person that spends 2 hours at the gym and talks about nutrition and all that stuff, and it's a hobby of theirs. Yeah. But there's other people that they just want to feel good. They just want to look good. They want to be able to go to the gym to feel healthy, but they don't really care too much about being super shredded or being super strong. They just want to be good enough, right? And to those people, fitting their plan around their life just makes more sense, so that it becomes a very frictionless process, right? An effortless process.
So they're being honest to you about what their goals are. I'm not trying, because a lot of times people like I don't know how girls are, but dudes are like, I want to look like that guy who's shredded. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they just want to be that, but not necessarily know what's going on. So you're getting so clients are actually telling you real like stuff that what's the word I'm looking for? People sometimes we will hear about someone doing something, we'll get excited, and we'll like, oh, why can't I be that guy? And they'll over amplify their goals, so to speak. So you're getting realistic goals then from people.
Always, it's realistic, and also I'm not making the worst thing. Okay, I want to backtrack a little bit and say I think the root of all disappointment comes from expectation. Okay. You set too high an expectation, too low an expectation. Right. It doesn't match that. You're going to be disappointed to some degree. So if someone comes to me wanting to change their body and they want to look like X, Y, and Z, I'm going to say, okay, this is what it's going to take to do that. Someone wants to be absolutely shredded, like the guys, they want to be like The Rock, basically, right? I'm going to say, okay, this is what it's going to take. You're going to have to do this, commit to this, and stick to doing this for this many years. Yeah. Right? That all of a sudden doesn't sound worth it anymore, right? They don't want it that bad to do all that stuff. Right. So then, now that it's in perspective, okay, what are you willing to sacrifice? And this is what you'll get out of it. And it's like, yeah, actually, I'm pretty happy about that. A lot of people think that the look will gain something for them, but really it's, as cheesy as it sounds, within the process of proving to yourself that you're capable of change, that you get what you're looking for.
How far do you think like just pure vanity gets people? Like, so for example, like I remember I told Ahmed, like when I first started, he's like, what do you want your end result to look like? I was like, I want to look like you and Omar. And he's like, well, that's going to take a few years. Yeah. And that's still like an aspiration. For sure. But I'm like, who's going to see that? My wife, and that's it? Exactly. Like, we're not going to like, it's not like, I'm not doing a bodybuilding show, right?
Yeah. Everything you do is always for yourself.
And the thing is, it's for yourself, and it's just almost like, so it is like this vanity. You want to look in the mirror. Yeah. Because honestly, it's like, it's honestly at the end of the day, it's just me looking at myself and be like, okay, you know.
I agree. The most important thing to me is like, I'm confident with the way I look, and I'm able to eat whatever I want to eat. That's like my main goal, and be able to move how I want to move. I still want to be athletic. Right. I have a goal of trying to dunk right now. It's still something I want to pursue. Yeah. Yeah. So, at the end of the day, like you have to do everything for yourself and always make it the end itself too, not as a means to an end, because that's how you get yourself disappointed at the end of the day.
Well, enjoying the process. So, have you had clients where they just hate exercise?
Yeah.
For sure. So how does that work?
Well, I mean, forcing them to exercise in a way they hate is going to be a dead-end road, right? But there's always some sort of activity that they like, right? And that's the most important thing. If they're trying to work with me, they're either trying to get healthier or they're trying to lose fat. Right. Am I still good?
Yeah, I'm like, where is your mic, by the way? Oh, underneath. Oh,
yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. I was like, is it even on you?
No, sorry to scare you there for a second. But yeah, they're trying to work on some sort of physique-based goal. So movement is important.
Right.
And there's one person I'm working with currently.
Yeah.
She hates working out. She hates lifting weights. That's the main thing I'd like to recommend. She also hates cardio, and that's cool. But I want you to love movement at some point.
Yeah.
Even though you don't love this right now,
Yeah.
maybe we'll try it again in the future. But right now, let's do something you enjoy. And she loves the dance classes that are at the gym. So I'm like, okay, well, let's set up 2 dance classes a week as your movement. We'll get X amount of steps a day, and we'll work on nutrition more. We'll focus more on nutrition because that'll be a little bit more in our control.
So not as much strength training for her.
Yeah, not as much strength training for her. But at some point, maybe we'll hit a stall, we hit a plateau, and I'll suggest, okay, I think maybe we should incorporate 1 strength training day. And then we get familiar with it. And because she already loves movement, now she gets a new kind of movement that she's going to start loving even more. And, then we're going from 1 day of strength training to 2 days of strength training and building off of that. And this is something, it happens unintentionally a lot of times, where you get someone to fall in love with movement, and then eventually, through natural progression of their goals, they start loving strength training too, because they have to do it at some point.
I think that also some people, like, they say they don't like the gym.
Yeah.
Because they just don't know what they're worried about a couple things, right? They're worried about, they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
They're worried about getting hurt. And the gym just feels like intimidating, right? And I remember, it was like this for me, because I remember when I was in college, it's probably the first time you had access to a gym, but I wasn't going to go into a barbell. Like, it was like, man, you heard about people like dropping a barbell on their neck, on the bench.
You heard the worst stuff only.
Right. Well, actually in high school I did, but in high school, because I ran track in high school, but I used the machines, the hammer strength machines.
Yeah.
And I like the leg press.
Right.
Because I feel like you're protected in that sense, right?
Yes.
And also you were like, I don't want to annoy anybody. I don't want to ask for a spotter.
Yeah.
So it started over time. And I remember going into USA Gym in 2014 when I first moved to Bridgeview, and I was talking to Chuck. And I was like, I actually told him, like, I want to go to a place that's not intimidating. And he's like, listen, man, I got an 80-year-old woman working at the front desk.
Yeah.
She's, this is
perfect.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's not, but even that, I'd go there, and all I would do is just do kettlebell swings.
Yeah.
Right? Because I was like, it wasn't, and I think for me, now we could talk about fads and fitness.
Yeah, sure.
I somehow got interested in the CrossFit. And I did CrossFit for about 3-4 years.
Nice.
Seeing very little results.
That usually happens with CrossFit.
Not getting hurt.
Yeah.
Just seeing no results.
Right.
But I think the thing about CrossFit, I'm looking back, is that I guess it gave me comfort throwing around a barbell.
Exactly. That's the thing too. A lot of it, the fear that you're talking about is just a fear of the unknown, a fear of unfamiliar.
Right.
A lot of the times.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I have clients like that are scared and not sure what to do, I'll say, all right, we don't need to do anything at the gym.
Yeah.
I just want you to show up to the gym. Even if it's 10 minutes, you spend that on the bike and you look around, that's cool.
Yeah.
Just show up. Practice, get good at showing up.
Right.
And they'll show up, they'll do their 10 minutes on the bike. They maybe try 1 machine, 2 machines, and then they go home. They do that for 2 weeks.
Yep.
All of a sudden they're like, I want to do other stuff while I'm here.
Right.
And it eases them into it.
Right.
So, sometimes it's just finding ways to get people comfortable.
Right.
And letting them know, hey, like, this isn't so bad, and you just need that exposure.
Yeah, keep talking, by the way. I'm going to flip the camera just so I can see it.
Oh, smart.
I was like, I normally do, but it's just like, yeah, it's red's flashing. That's good.
Nice.
All right. Yeah, I mean, and I just had that epiphany about CrossFit, to be honest. Because when you said the whole idea of being comfortable with movement, and I was like, wait a second, how did I get to where I'm at now, where I feel very comfortable going to the gym? Was probably that, because I remember, my philosophy was, I kept, and I got into the CrossFit because, and I think this psychology is important for coaches to understand. I don't know if, I'll be very transparent here. I went to Hajj in 2015, right?
Okay.
And one of the guys in my group, Janae Dean, he's like have you heard of Yaqeen Institute?
No, I haven't.
Sheikh Omar
Oh,
Sulaiman's.
yeah.
He's the CEO of Yaqeen Institute.
Oh, no way.
But he's also like a multi-million-dollar businessman. He has like a cell phone distribution company. So
cool.
He was in my Hajj group. Great guy down in Dallas. So he was also I could tell that he was also not breaking a sweat. Going to Hajj, you're walking a lot and all that. So I picked his brain a little bit. We found out he was doing CrossFit. And I had learned a little bit about CrossFit because there was this girl named Julie Fouché. She was a medical student, and she was like, I think she placed second in the CrossFit Games for women. I don't know if you've heard of her.
I have heard of her.
Yeah. So I was just like, I got intrigued by it, and I had this streak in me that has like this like thing. Sometimes things sound a little extreme. Let me just try it out.
Yeah.
So when I saw this guy doing it, it's like this guy who's older than me. He's a brown dude.
Right.
Super successful in his career and all that. And so I figured like, well, when I go back, I was going to try it out.
Nice.
And I was like, in my mindset though, but I would be, after these workouts, like my cardio still to this day sucks.
Yeah.
Right? And I'd be like in the fetal position after the workout. You're like on the ground. You're barely trying to, like, you're the last guy. I remember we had to do the warm-up runs, and I would just be the last one coming back. And I was like, well, it's wearing me out so much. It must be doing something.
Right.
But I don't know if it really did.
Yeah.
Because my recovery sucked. Like, I couldn't go back for another 3 days.
Yeah. I mean, CrossFit has hella flaws, right? And just the design of it in terms of, like, your health. But the thing I love about it is that it got more people under a barbell that probably wouldn't have been exposed to a barbell otherwise, you know?
Yeah.
And that's a really amazing thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's where, but like this is the first time I actually think about like, oh, I actually benefited in that sense because other than that, I was like $145 a month down the drain. I mean, the CrossFit gyms aren't cheap.
Yeah, but you got stronger, I'm guessing?
I don't know. You know, it's hard to say because, you know, the programming is such that, so we had like the gym I went to they're great folks, by the way. Like it might work. I mean, there were people there who obviously got results.
Yeah.
But they were also going there 5 days a week.
Yeah.
And I was wondering like, how do y'all come here 5 days a week? This is crazy.
It is crazy.
Like what's your recovery and stuff? And I would try to get the 5 a.m. class or 6 a.m. class. Sometimes I go after work. But after work's tough because you're like just not wanting to do that. Yeah. Right. So, when you go first thing in the morning, it's much better.
Always.
But yeah, I remember like I don't know if I got stronger, but you know, we had Olympic lifting class, so I learned like the moves like the thrusters or the snatch and those. But things I don't do those anymore.
Right.
I don't do like those explosive kind of lifts when I work out. So
yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Did some yoga.
It's just part of the journey.
But just some things like box jumps that I enjoyed and things of that sort. The kettlebells, emphasis on that.
What did you transition to after CrossFit?
Oh, so after CrossFit, I was like, that's when I got into like maybe more traditional bodybuilding style.
Nice.
Right? So I went to, I don't know if you follow this guy like Alex Cortez.
That sounds very familiar. I'm not sure.
You know, he's an online personal trainer.
Okay.
Right? He used to be, but again, he was a personal trainer at like a chain gym.
Yeah.
He's made it really big. And he's also in like the man, like if you're into the whole online manosphere, he's one of those guys too.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I had heard him on a podcast. He was on my friend's podcast like 3-4 years ago before he's really that big. And I bought one of his programs called the Skinny Fat Program.
Yeah.
Because I was like, that's me. That's like any brown dude,
is what I
skinny
need.
fat, right? So I had this program, and you know, I was like, because at CrossFit, I was kind of like, man, I'm just like, I think after 3 years, I was just like, am I really getting anywhere? You know what I mean?
That's a long time, actually.
Way
to stay committed to that for that long.
You know, but it was like 3 years of going like maybe like once or twice a week.
That's still.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's why.
That's a butt whooping once or twice a week.
But the problem is, it was like, okay, you do everything. Every day is different.
Right.
So let's say we do deadlifts on one day.
Yeah.
I don't go to do something else something else later that week.
Yeah.
I might touch a deadlift for like a month.
Yeah, it's hard to progress.
And therefore, and sometimes on open gym, I try to go to open gym and just do deadlifts or like pull-ups, like band. And I need the assistant pull-ups, right, with the bands.
Right.
So I don't know that's where I was like, and we had Olympic lifting class. So I would go to that, and sometimes I'd get like really good instruction because the coach there, she was like, I think she get placed in like the masters division of CrossFit, like top 10.
Wow, sick.
Yeah, so she's older. She's in her 50s, and she was, I think, a power lifter in her past, right? So she had a lot of experience, or she was an Olympic, in the Olympic lifts. So, I got Alex's program, and it was a skinny fat program. But dumb me, I think I took some advice from like some online one of his comments, and I didn't do warm ups.
Yeah.
Right?
What happened?
I just jumped right into like his program,
God.
so I would go to USA Gym.
Yeah.
And they had like the incline machine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like,
I do. With the plate loaded.
Yeah. So I'd load that sucker up and just go to town. No working set, no warm up, just right into working set, right?
Man, I wrote about people like you.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I know I have a video about like the 3 types of people.
Yeah.
3 types of warm-ups people do,
Yeah.
and you're one of them. Like that was one of the examples. Just jumps right onto the machine and loads it up.
Yeah, like I would say 2 to 3 months in.
Yeah.
This is when is this? This is probably the fall of, because what year? We're in 2023 right now.
Yeah.
I hired Ahmed 2 years ago, 2021.
Okay.
So this would have, this was during the pandemic too, I think.
Yeah.
So I think that's also helped me get out of CrossFit because the pandemic shut everything down.
Right. There's like only 3 gyms around here open.
Right.
You didn't have a lot of options.
Yeah. I mean, so so I remember I go to US. I think USA had opened back up.
Right.
And they were like, and they're, I won't get into that.
Yeah. That's fine. I know where you're going.
But I go up there, load it up. 2 months in, I got like I feel like I got some like elbow tendonitis or something, right, going on. And then I just stopped going to the gym. And then, I was like back to old habits. And also, when I was working out, I wasn't doing Alex's plan fully. Like my nutrition was like I'd eat like healthy, and then like go to like Andy's right after or something.
Yeah.
But like Andy's every now and then is fine, but like, like 3 times a week is probably not good,
It depends.
You know what I mean? So anyways, we ended up, I get tendonitis. Ahmed, I think I followed him on IG or something, and then he DM'd me, and I told him like what happened to my elbow, and then he got me in the program, and then I got into like, then he gave me his own program, and I went back to USA with his program, but with a lot of stretching, warm up, and cool down. And he got me, and I think it was sold early on. And it was like, this is a gold,
right?
Because in a week and a half, my elbow tendonitis like started to dissipate.
Nice, perfect.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, so that's the magic of good programming. Honestly.
Actually, it was funny because I was watching one of your videos today. I'm right now dealing. I'm sure. Are you familiar with this book right here?
Supple Leopard?
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not.
Okay. I'll after we record, have you take a look at it. I heard about it from Firas Zahabi.
Okay.
Firas Zahabi?
Yeah.
So he talks about it. Because right now I've been dealing. So I would say the last year and a half, 2 years, I've been on and off some like rotator cuff kind of issues.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy, but like I think it's a combination of lifting, but also getting thrown in jiu-jitsu and landing on my
for sure.
like back shoulder. So I was like looking at some of this stuff. There's like a lax ball, but I saw one of your videos you just did with one of your friends who just did like has some shoulder issues, and I was like, that's the stuff I gotta go.
Right.
Yeah, with the banded backs and then the floor. And I do the floor press. And that reminds me actually, I'll table that thought, but. Yeah, so and the face pulls and all that. So I was like, you know what? Because after we record, I am going to go to Charter tonight and get something in.
Nice.
But I'm going to try to work through it because that's the thing. But now, before my tendonitis or whatever elbow pain I had, I would just like not do anything. Now I'm just kind of like, I'll take it easy. If something like hurts, I won't like do it. I'll try something else. And that's what he taught me was that like you got to work around your injuries.
Yeah.
More than anything else. You don't just like stop doing everything.
Yeah, exactly. You just have to adjust. There's always something you could do. To get progress with where you're at and also to improve it.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, me personally, I have so much experience with shoulder stuff because I've dislocated both of my shoulders. And I get a lot of clients that come to me with shoulder pain, and it's kind of not necessarily something I advertise as I specialize in. But I've saved a lot of people from getting shoulder surgery just by incorporating smart programming.
How do they get the shoulder pain? Is there? Are they pretty? Can you put them in just a couple buckets of how people actually acquire shoulder pain?
Yeah, there's a few key, I guess, causes. A few key causes for pretty much any kind of joint issue.
Right.
One is overuse. So overuse with one muscle group versus the other.
Right.
So for shoulder issues and even hip issues, or knee issues, a lot of times it's people being anteriorly dominated. So their front side muscles are stronger and tighter than their backside muscles.
Okay.
So that puts their shoulder in an unstable position, and when they're lifting, they're not able to use the muscle properly, and so a lot of extra stress is put on the joint.
Okay.
So that's one thing. The other thing is a lack of mobility with the joint. I'd say those two are the top 2 causes. And a lack of mobility, obviously, just you can't use the joint as functionally as it should be used. And because of that, it has to compensate somewhere else down the line, and that leads to injury and pain. So those are usually top two causes.
Are there any lifts that, if someone is not careful, could aggravate the shoulder?
I mean, anything, really. Yeah, even just picking up a plate. If you're not careful, picking up a dumbbell or something, you can hurt your shoulder.
Yeah. Or I actually, that's happened. Sometimes you feel like you don't deload the right way.
Yeah, if you're not giving the weight the respect it deserves, and you're just kind of going mindlessly, so you can easily pull it doing something random.
No, because I've heard some people say like the skull crusher move is it. That's
something
I get
what you're saying.
Yeah. It's more like certain moves are more, they're riskier.
Yeah. Anything where your upper arm is going to be overhead or toward overhead, there's a lot less stability there.
Yeah.
So those situations, you're at a higher risk.
Right.
Of injury compared to if I were to do tricep extensions from here, versus up here.
Right.
There's a lot more support down here.
Right. Exactly.
With everything.
There's the one with the where you have the dumbbell like that, like just low. Like I can feel it already. Right.
Yeah.
I haven't been doing that, or I don't do the military press.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You find other things. What's the rationale? Is there a difference between bench versus dumbbells, like a barbell versus dumbbells?
Yeah, there's a lot of difference actually. Contextually, I actually just recorded a video this morning with Asad about this, and I'm very not necessarily anti-barbell for upper body movements, but I advise against it a lot of times because most people I work with are doing it for physique.
Yeah.
Right. And the most important thing for physique is putting, we were talking about biomechanics earlier.
Yeah.
Putting your body in a position to create as much mechanical tension in the muscle as possible.
Okay.
With a barbell, you're in a very fixed position.
Yeah.
Not every person can put their elbows in a proper alignment to create maximal chest tension.
Right.
Right. So using cables or dumbbells will be more effective for that, specifically for developing the chest muscle.
Okay.
Now, with a barbell movement like a bench press or an overhead press, it's a very power-based movement.
Yeah.
It's a highly fatiguing movement too. So if you're someone that's trying to get stronger for sport, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, if you're doing powerlifting and you got to get good at the bench exercise itself, those are people that I would only recommend barbell bench pressing to. But otherwise, the benefit of it is really more egotistical than it is to help your physique.
It was over the summer, this high school kid, he asked me like what I benched.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. I don't care.
I say that all the time.
I don't
People ask me that all the time, I bet you can imagine.
No, but is that still a thing?
That's still a thing. And I tell people I haven't benched in like 3 years.
The whole 1 rep max, especially the whole like that was the thing in high school. It's like bros.
I don't know about your high school. Our high school, we got a T-shirt. If you benched, squatted, and deadlift, and it equaled 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So we got a 1,000-pound club shirt. So that was always a pursuit people had.
In our locker, in our gym at high school, we had like 200 and above the bench.
Okay.
So everyone who's 200.
They got a special
like for football and wrestlers, they had like whatever their name would be up there.
Oh, sick!
And it went up to 300.
No way.
Yeah,
that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah,
that's super motivating.
So 200, 225, 250, 275, 300. It was started.
Oh, like tiered.
Yeah, right. Cool. Exactly. So it's not. I look at him at 200. I'm like, I can't bench 200 now. I know I can't bench that, right?
Yeah.
Maybe if I tried a 1 rep max, I don't know. Yeah. But sometimes you're like, I don't know if it's worth like destroying my chest.
No, it's not. It's really like for a barbell bench, you would be destroying your shoulders and your elbows more than your chest.
Well, I asked that question because in the video where you had the guy with the shoulder issues, you had him do the floor press with a barbell. Why is that?
So the floor press with the barbell creates. So the cool thing about the barbell also for a rehab kind of movement is that your hands are fixed, right? And I used a cue with him because he wasn't able to use his chest.
Right.
He only felt his shoulder muscles working anytime he did any kind of horizontal push movement, right? Like a bench press or something.
Okay.
So in order to help him feel it more, I told him to take the barbell and crush it with his hands. So he's trying to crumble the barbell between his hands like a can of soda. Right. He's not actually moving the bar, but that's the movement he's trying to do because this abduction of the elbow, like upper arm inward, is what's going to really stimulate your chest. And then the half range of motion of doing it on the floor, right? You can't go through the full range of motion.
Right. Yep.
Also make sure that you're maintaining tension in your chest. And we also in the video made sure he moved through a slower tempo.
There was that pause.
Yeah. So it's like a 6-second descend, 2-second pause at the bottom, 6-second ascend.
Right.
And all of those working together kind of helped him rewire his brain because he's slowing down these reps and focusing tension appropriately the entire time through the whole range of motion to again, basically lift in a different way, lift in a healthier way.
Yeah.
And just recently, like last week, I don't know if you saw my story or not, he was benching 225 on a regular bench press. And he's able to do that pain-free now.
Okay.
So, yeah, you just have to slow things down a lot of times. And that cue of crushing the bar, it's not something you can do with dumbbells, but it's something I did want him to understand so he could use his chest more effectively.
It's like a rehab. Because I do the floor press,
yeah, like a rehab.
but with dumbbells. And what I do is, because of my rotator cuff, because I did go to a physical therapist like about a year ago, and it's funny thing, I stopped because I was like, I can do this banded stuff at home.
Yeah.
That's
true a lot of times.
Like, I mean, the only thing, they had the one thing where they like, it's like a machine, they like put like almost like a gun. You know, that was nice, where they put something on you and they shock it.
I love that.
Those are nice. But like, when I'd go and I'd only be doing banded work and like dumbbell work, I'm like, I mean, I know what to, I mean.
Yeah, just tell me what to do. I can do it on my own.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I got this book too, because it kind of tells you what to do, right?
Yeah.
But like, so I got on the floor pressing because there's a jujitsu program I started following about a year ago for strength.
Nice.
And because when you're on the ground, you don't have that. You have to it forces it kind of emulating that move.
Yeah.
You got to push somebody off
from a dead stop, basically.
Right, exactly. You don't have it doesn't let go momentum. You don't have you don't get to use your legs and stuff, kind of thing. So that's kind of that's been my go-to chest press more so. I haven't done a bench like a standard bench in a while. Just all I do is take like those little pads, throw them on the ground, and then grab the dumbbells and then go from there.
Perfect.
So, as far as do you find yourself influenced by any like of the big? Because there's a lot of fitness influencers out there, right?
There are,
You mentioned you got into the bodybuilding space. One thing about me was when I started getting when Ahmed was coaching me, I started like going on YouTube and I remember I would like watch like Greg Doucette or like Fouad Abiad, and he'd be like, "Those guys are on steroids. Just be careful." And I'm like, and then I was like, joke with them. I'm like, "Hey, when do I get these steroids?" But for me, it was like I like the when I'd have my healthy meal at dinner, I like felt motivated extra by like watching their video while eating.
Yeah.
So I don't know, is that a thing? Because I see a lot of guys, like I would see them watching some Fouad video or podcast while they're eating their chicken and rice.
Yeah. It's funny you say that's the thing. It's just, at some point, like I said earlier, it just becomes a part of your identity, right?
Yeah.
You just want to consume as much of it as you can.
Right.
And these people, they've been doing it for dozens of years.
Right.
So it is a thing that I see all the time. When I used to work at Export, that's what people spent in the break room doing, all the trainers.
Oh,
They would just watch other fitness influencers and learn from them.
Was there anyone specifically that you gravitate towards, or did you kind of like do your own thing?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the two main people I've always enjoyed their content long term has been Cody McBroom.
Okay.
He's the one that I realized online coaching can become a thing, you know.
Okay.
And so there was that, Cody McBroom. Sam Miller Science, he was a mentor of mine for a little bit. Brian Boorstein, and then Paul Carter.
Okay.
Those two are also, semi-mentors of mine
that
have helped me just understand biomechanics to another degree.
And are they on YouTube?
Paul Carter's on YouTube.
Okay.
Cody McBroom's on YouTube. Everyone else is just Instagram.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, Paul Carter. I don't know if you know. If you know T Nation. If you've heard of T Nation.
I heard of
Yeah, they're like the biggest blog in like the last 30 years specifically for bodybuilding. He's one of the founders of that. So he's been doing this for a crazy amount of time.
Yeah, because I've actually never heard of those guys. I'll have to look them up.
Yeah.
But sometimes you realize I told you my daughter goes to UXA, right?
Yeah.
And one of her classmates threw like the craziest birthday parties.
Okay.
Like side note, I went to this birthday party last summer with her. It's probably more expensive than my wedding for like an 8-year-old kid.
Oh my god!
But anyways, I happened to meet some guy.
Okay.
And I don't. We're sitting down, and one of the neighbors. He's like he was into powerlifting, and he was best friends with a guy named Dr. Mike Israel.
No way.
Yeah.
RP. Renaissance periodization.
Yeah. And I was like, I never heard of him.
He's like the godfather of hypertrophy.
Yeah. And then I looked at him, I'm like, whoa, this dude is huge.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about, because I'm from Columbus, and Columbus is like the West Side Barbell, and and then he was like, okay, because he said him and Mike were gonna go meet Dave Tate.
No way.
Yeah.
What?
In like a few months. Yeah. He showed me the text messaging. He was like, yeah, that's me and Dave Tate talking.
Oh my god, that's so cool.
Yeah. So he was like, yeah, Mike Israel and him were best friends. They went to college together.
Wow.
So that's kind of where.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it was just like weird. And I was like, so I feel like some of the people I'm watching on YouTube, there's like, because Subi got me on Nick Bear.
Yeah.
Nick Bear's cool.
Always loves him. Yeah.
But it's also like, man, you gotta be hardcore as hell for that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you know, it's cool to appreciate. To me, it's like really cool to appreciate. Yeah. It's not something I ever want to do, but it's cool to appreciate.
You know, sometimes I think like, but why not? But like, I realize that like tomorrow we're recording this the day before the NFC Championship, AFC Championship. Like, I'm gonna watch probably both games.
For sure.
That's 7 hours down the drain. I think if you're doing what Nick Bear does, you can't do that.
No, you can't. It's a lot of sacrifice, and that goes back to what I said. Like, you got to know what it takes, and is that worth it to you?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So,
like, to me, I personally love football, dude. Especially, I'm an Eagles fan.
Oh, you really?
I'm hyped up for tomorrow.
I'm a Niners fan.
So, are you really?
Yeah.
No way.
So how did you become an Eagles fan in Chicago?
I'm still a Bears fan. I just like the Eagles a little bit more. But when I first started watching football was when it was Donovan McNabb, Brian Westbrook, Terrell Owens. Yeah. I just fell in love with that team. And the Eagles since then have always had really fun teams.
Yeah.
So
I respect them. I respect the culture of the city.
Yeah, it's next level, dude.
You know, and you know, I remember when they won the last time against the Patriots.
Yeah. Man, great time.
The Kelsey speech.
Yeah, I love that speech so much. It gets you hyped every time. Well, how did you get to become a Niners fan from Columbus?
So Columbus doesn't have a pro team. Our pro team is Ohio State.
Right.
That's where I was undergrad. Right. So yeah, I'd rather die for the Buckeyes, but like Cleveland is 2 hours north.
Okay.
And Cincinnati's 2 hours south. Right. So there isn't. I mean, they cover the Bengals and the Browns on local TV, but it's like
there's not a strong following.
You know, there are. I mean, I think Browns fans are more hardcore.
They are.
They're for real hardcore because they've been garbage for like forever.
Yeah, they still sell at the stadium sometimes.
And I had a few Bengals fans that I know some legit Bengals fans that are like hardcore that like they were ride or die since forever.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why the Niners. I think it was unexpected.
Okay.
I was watching the NFC Championship game '92.
Okay.
They were hosting the Cowboys at Candlestick Park, and they lost the game to the Cowboys. But I found myself cheering for them for some reason.
Yeah, it just felt right.
Yeah, and then it just stuck. And then the next year they lost to the Cowboys again, and then that developed my hatred for the Cowboys because it's almost like it's not like I watched them win early. It was like, yeah, I mean they were good. Don't get me wrong. If you're going to the NFC Championship game, you're good. So the first, and then like you got into, and then from then it just
you were along for the ride. You were part of the story, basically.
Right, and then but then I stuck with them even when they had like Tim Rattay and these scrubs.
There were dark years,
you know, like post Jeff Garcia, the like 2000s.
Man,
Mike Nolan and Mike Singletary pulling his pants down and all that stuff.
Man.
You know,
I loved having him as a coach. Like having him as a coach in the league.
Yeah,
it was just so entertaining.
You know, so and then even after Harbaugh. They were like terrible for a couple years. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's good to see them. I mean, but like you, I appreciate the Bears being in Chicago.
Yeah.
And I think being from Ohio, I like seeing the Bengals do well as well.
Yeah.
And if the Browns were there, I would enjoy like seeing the Browns do well because I appreciate. Now I don't feel the same way about like basketball.
Okay.
Like I can't stand the Cavs.
Really?
Yeah.
What was your team in the basketball?
The Bulls.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So 90s, like people say, I'm super fair weather, man. I grew up in Ohio.
Yeah.
I'm a Niners fan. I'm a Bulls fan. Baseball, Seattle Mariners. Then I just like Griffey. And then hockey is just like, I lived in Toronto for a couple of years, so I appreciate the Leafs and Blackhawks were good, for a little while, and now they're terrible. But,
yeah, man.
I
love that streak when they were good, though.
No, that was a great time because we were living in the city at the time.
Oh, really? Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, we were living in Hyde Park, and we were just following those that 5-year stretch.
Yeah,
it was amazing. Yeah, for sure. I want to segue into we call Stoic philosophy.
Sure.
And I remember you talking about it with Subi. And I actually messaged Subi after the show, and I was like, "Hey, is Jumha Muslim?" Because he talked about like this philosophy. And I asked that because I'm gonna get this question a lot after I'm recording.
Okay.
Because people who look at the Stoic philosophy or Stoicism, and I have like read some of the material. I've got a Ryan Holiday book. But he's the guy that's probably brought it forward today. But I think that I was like, it's almost if someone isn't like someone who's a novice might think of it as like a religion. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because like kind of like how Scientology was a thing. Like, fun fact, I remember I got pitched to join Scientology back in 2003.
No way.
Like,
Wow.
Well, it was
How did that go?
It was I never went. So what happened was I used to work for this Jewish guy, this Jewish Christian dude. Meaning he was like ethnically Jewish but Christian.
Okay.
Right. Back when I was in college, and he was getting his car serviced at a place, and I was kind of like his apprentice almost. Like I did his cold calls for him, and he was an entrepreneur. So I mean, I figured I'd latch on for a little bit.
Yeah.
And we became friends, and we're still in touch. So we ended up. He took me to this car dealership, and this dude was a Scientologist guy. At the mechanic.
Okay.
So he's making me this pitch, and he's talking about like self-development, and at the time I was like reading some of that stuff, like the old self-development stuff, like Napoleon Hill's and Stephen Covey's. So it sounded intriguing, and I was like, yeah. He took my address, like, oh, yeah, I'll send you some stuff. I had no idea it was a religion, no idea, right, or anything.
Yeah.
And then it comes in our mail. My
but
parents.
You knew it was Scientology? Like he said this
he
is
said Scientology, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I knew it was Scientology, but I didn't know what it was. It sounded like, I thought it was just like, oh, it's some self-development program.
Yeah, I could see
that. Okay, fair enough. It comes to me, my dad sees the mail.
Yeah.
And he just like freaks out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
Right? And he was like, I don't think he gave me an explanation. He just freaked the hell out. And I just was like, well, I guess, I mean, I didn't care that much, so I was like, all right, well, I'll just move on.
It's not worth it.
Yeah. Like, I'm not, like...
I'm not so invested in this.
Yeah. It was kind of like, oh, I bet the guy once, he like, took my address, he sent me some stuff, and that was it.
It's actually so funny.
You know? So, but still, but talk to me, explain to the listeners, I guess, if someone stopped you in the street or an elevator, and you had explained to them Stoicism or the Stoic philosophy, how would you describe it?
Yeah, I guess the best way to look at it, and maybe any philosophy, is just a certain perspective you take on the world with. And I think the main thing about Stoicism is embracing mindfulness, embracing the moment, and understanding what's within your control and what's not in your control.
Okay.
Right? And that leads to a more fulfilling life, a less stressful life, a more peaceful life. So like those principles that I just mentioned, you can have those principles and be any type of religion.
Yeah.
Right. So there's Stoics of all types of religions.
Right.
You know, you could think that way, and that's the main idea. So
now, have you like looked for those elements within Islam, or have you I'll give you an example. Sometimes I was listening to Ryan Holiday was on a podcast recently, I think with Chris Williamson, and he talks about like the Herculean choice. Where you pick is vice and virtue, right? And you're making these choices, right? And it made me think about this idea of like the lower nafs, like the lower self, the nafs al-amara, versus the nafs al-mutma'inna, like the content self, you know, and the process. And then there's like the self in the middle, the nafs that I forget what it's called, but it's in Arabic, but it's the self-reflecting. Nafs, because the nafs al-amara is like the base desires. Just I'm gonna be a hedonistic dude, right? And then the middle path recognizes like, oh, I got these issues. I need to help rectify this. And then you get to the nafs al-mutma'inna, like where the soul is at peace. Right. So I just thought of that right away. Like when you're reading some of this stuff, have you like found this epiphany where, oh, I've heard this before? Because sometimes you hear something in a khutbah, and it's in passing. Right? And you don't like think much of it.
Right. You don't make the connection.
Like that's what I was gonna ask. That's kind of the question was.
I mean, off the top of my head, I don't have specific examples, but I do know it is found in the type of people most sheikhs tell you to become.
Right.
You know, like most sheikhs, I could say, are stoic in a lot of ways. They have a stoic way of presenting themselves and how they go about their day. And in reality, you know, when you want to practice Islam, one of the most important things to anything you do is your intention. Right, and that's kind of a central philosophy here. Is in Stoicism as well? Is you have good intention, you take action on that intention, and you try to make the world a better place. And I think Islam as a general religion, that's the main purpose of the entire thing. So, that's again if I could go into every single line, I'm sure I could find an example that matches it, but I don't have access to that right now.
let me ask you, how were you first exposed to the philosophy?
A Stoic philosophy?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I never really thought of that. In college, I had a huge interest in philosophy. Like that was how I spent a lot of my free time, was just reading philosophy. I took every philosophy class I could.
But mom wasn't gonna like be down with that to be a major.
No way. Yeah.
The IIT had that as a major?
They didn't have it as a major. They had it as a minor.
Okay.
I didn't pursue it as a minor because it would have needed an extra semester by the time I found out about it.
Okay.
But I took every philosophy class I could at IIT.
Okay.
So like every elective that had a philosophy option, I took it.
And you were exposed to philosophy in college, not in high school.
Not in high school, no.
Okay.
It was definitely the summer after high school is probably when I started.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
And it was just through, I think, honestly, this is actually, now that you bring it up, I remember. I was following Arian Foster on Twitter.
Okay.
And Arian Foster, he majored in philosophy at University of Tennessee. So he would tweet about all these interesting thoughts and ideas that I never heard of, but they kind of resonated with me. I wanted to learn more about them.
Yeah.
And he always recommended certain books.
Right.
Ego is the Enemy was one of them at some point.
Right.
So that was, not my introduction, but one of the first 3 books I read.
Right.
In regards to philosophy. So I actually started with him, and it snowballed into other Twitter accounts and different YouTube channels and articles and books, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. I mean, Holiday is obviously Ryan Holiday seems like the guy who's like most representative, or he's like the modern day evangelist.
Yeah, he's the modern day leader. He's the modern day Marcus Aurelius, essentially.
Right. And Marcus Aurelius, he seems to be, there's Seneca.
Yes.
Seneca predates Aurelius?
He does.
Okay. So is Seneca like essentially the OG, or where they can kind of trace it back to?
Yeah, essentially. Okay. I think he's him and Marcus Aurelius are always top 2 reference. Right. I don't know if they deem him as founder, if they deem anyone as founder.
Right.
Because that's not really relevant.
Because it's almost like these principles to live like a good life.
Yeah.
That's a way to explain it. And I think Tim Ferriss is also a practitioner.
Yeah.
I think he's big in, I don't know who else, but have you ever gotten pushback for some people, like, because whenever I find a lot of times Muslims who are very like, I don't want to say simplistic minded, but you quote something that, oh, we get this from the non-Muslims, and they were like, well, you can get that in Islam, you can get that if you study. I'm like,
yeah,
you're probably, I mean, yeah, you're right, but have you gotten that kind of pushback at all?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, I think that, like to your point, people value things more when it's something of value to them. So like if someone from Stoicism said something, and then the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said it as well, they're going to value what he said more, and as they should.
Right.
But I like to be as objective as possible in just my daily life.
Yeah.
So if I hear something, it doesn't matter really who said it. If it's a really good thing and it makes sense to me and I can apply it, then that's a good thing. Yeah. Even if it was like some homeless guy down the street that said it.
I have a theory that I just thought about today when I was thinking about this question. So I think that, like, so far what I've read in Ryan's works and seen and what I've heard from in interviews, I think all of it, you can find it within the Islamic tradition somewhere.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's the problem that we have is that because as Muslims we don't we haven't engaged with that, and we don't have access to it, and our perception of religion is so like watered down. And then we see other Muslims who are like just not living what we call a good life. And then you see it like, and our examples of Stoicism are Ryan Holiday, Tim Ferriss, like uber successful individuals.
Yeah.
So their examples are manifest clearly to us. And so it's just like, oh well, so you wouldn't like necessarily, so automatically it resonates. Because you see it you see a practice, like, because Ryan, what is he? He was like the chief marketing officer at American Apparel. He was like 21, and his like reading habits. By the way, have you ever tried that?
What?
How he does the reading?
No, I haven't.
Like the index card system.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah. But how he's reading his, that's how I first heard of him. It wasn't through Stoicism. It was like the guy who like was able to like consume all this written material and write these reviews. So I subscribed to his email list. But I think that's the challenge. I think that's why, and I think within like the Islamic content creation spaces right now, people don't, the content's there, the virtues are there, but it's not being communicated in the right way. So like, are you familiar with this whole, with Andrew Tate?
Yeah.
Okay, so he became, and so all the people are up in arms. They're wanting to know, well, why do they have to follow Tate for masculinity or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And a friend of mine who had no skin in the game at all, he listened to some Tate interview, a couple weeks ago, and he messaged me, and he was like, well, he's really entertaining. And I'm like, well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
If the guy can communicate, that'll get followers. Mm-hmm. I used to have when I was in college, I was more of like a Salafi orientation, as people know, right? Mm-hmm. So I didn't like Hamza Yusuf. If you know Hamza Yusuf from Zaytuna College, or I wasn't supposed to.
Okay.
That was the
That's a better way to say it.
I wasn't supposed to because that was against the party line, right? But I remember I started consuming this content. I'm like, this really resonates with me.
Yeah.
Right? And what so-and-so Sheikh is saying isn't. Mm-hmm. Because some reason it's not, but what he's saying is getting me here.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's where we got, as a community, we can't be pointing fingers and be like, well, so-and-so is taking benefit. Like I talk about Cal Newport all the time. Mm-hmm. It's not like Cal Newport is saying something that's like completely brand new revolutionary. No, we can find it in the tradition. Uh-huh. But it's just like the means of communication is like spot on.
Yeah.
And it's easily digestible to right now the audience that it's being addressed to. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. I really love what you said because I think it is a big thing in the community.
Yeah.
Where labels kind of become so important.
Yeah.
And I'm personally, you brought this up and implied like I'm a Stoic philosopher and like I follow Stoicism. I don't consider myself to that. I like the ideas. I read the material.
Right.
But personally, I don't really label myself as anything other than Jumha Muslim fitness coach. Right. Those are the only labels I have on myself.
Right.
But rolling off of that, when you have those strong labels, it implies things you should or shouldn't be doing.
Right.
And those a lot of times are just made up from yourself or from some assumption that you made.
Right.
And you can take the info from all these other people as long as it doesn't contradict anything of value to you.
Right.
Then there's no reason why you can't take it and run with it and enjoy what's being said.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how feasible it is for a layperson to like know everything. I mean, you're not going to know everything about Islamic tradition, right?
Never.
Or but people should understand basic creedal stuff.
Yeah.
So they know like BS when they see it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because I got into self-help actually. I've never talked about this. Because of Amway. You ever heard of Amway?
I have heard of Amway. I've been Amwayed.
Really?
Yeah.
You were like how much were you Amwayed? You were just contacted at a mall or something, or?
I was contacted at school like on 3 different occasions at IIT.
Really? By a fellow student?
Students I didn't know. Students that went to school there but weren't in my classes.
Okay.
And then one guy he was actually like former head of personal training at Lifetime in Burr Ridge. So he actually is the one that took me to a few events.
Okay.
And I think I went to a football game and barbecue with them one time.
Okay.
But I was like, oh man, this is not going how I wanted to go. I've been Amway.
I was in it for like 2.5, 3 years.
Oh wow. Okay.
Early 2000s.
Yeah.
It actually, one thing it did is like it got me. I didn't make any money. No surprise there. I mean, I'm not gonna count my $2 check for they'd send me for like buying the stuff that the overpriced stuff that I was gonna buy anyways. There's 2 things it exposed me to the idea, the whole the personal development space.
Yeah.
Right?
They are big on that.
And the idea, but it also like took me out of my shell. I was an introvert in high school. And I think it like made me very comfortable speaking.
Yeah. That's very valuable.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't think it was
that was worth the $2, honestly.
Yeah.
To get that skill.
2 or 3 years, right? Because it got me I became it's very comfortable. It's very easy for me to like small talk people because I would be that guy. I'd be in a mall, you'd be on a bench, and I would just sometimes I'd just go up there like, hey, you want to make some money? Or the other thing would be like, I would go to like the coffee shop or like Tim Hortons. I was in Canada.
Yeah.
Go to like Tim Hortons after like 6 o'clock, and I was in college, right? Mm-hmm. Because I finished at Ohio State, but I started in Canada.
Gotcha.
So I was like, I'd be in line, and I'd go with like your sponsor. He would see, I would like copy him. So I'd see a guy in line. He'd look like tired. I'm like, hey, long day at work. And then he's like, yeah, man, fucking work sucks. And I'm like, oh, yeah, tell me about it. Like, what do you do? And I was like, yeah. I was like, and he's like, what about you? I was like, yeah, and they're like, yeah, I work for a distribution. You always have some different pitch.
For sure.
You know, like, Oh, yeah, I actually...
I heard it like 5 different ways.
So he's like, okay, yeah. It's like, yeah, what do you, are you looking for something? And then you kind of like, are you open to maybe like checking something out? And then sometimes they give you the card. Some guys pick it up right away. And like some guys will be like, hey, you're trying to get me in your Amway thing, aren't you? Yeah. You're trying to get me in your pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
Like, so I one time he just like, I was on a train, this dude just like he was having fun with it too. It's not like he was mad. He actually like ate my lunch and he enjoyed it.
So how'd you get away from it? How did those 2 to 3 years end for you?
Ooh, I started in Toronto.
Okay.
Right. When I was doing that, I wasn't doing too hot in school.
Okay.
Because I was like, I don't need school.
Yeah.
Because I actually wanted to be an attorney.
Oh.
At the time.
Okay.
I was like, because the way I was contacted was I was at the bookstore.
Yeah.
It's called Chapters in Toronto. It's a Canadian chain. It's like Barnes and Noble's here, by the U of T campus, and I'm like looking through like law school like admission stuff or what to study for undergrad because I was still picking my major and stuff, right? And the guy, my sponsor, he just came in and like started chatting. I was like, what you read there? And I was like, oh yeah, doing this. We're just talking up here and there. He's at the time, I'm like 19 or 18 at the time, and he's like 22, so he's young.
Yeah.
But he's wearing like a sport coat, like
Yeah. He's looking
a little sharper, right?
Yeah.
So we get to talk in, and he invites, and then, I was like, man, I don't need to go to school. And his sponsor was his upline, what they call it, was an IBM guy.
Okay.
He did corporate America, and he was in sales. And I met other attorneys, and they hated their jobs.
Yeah.
So I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
And so I learned all the phrases, like, yeah. And so I remember, like, one semester, I think I just bombed. Like, I failed, like, every class.
Oh, man.
Right? I come home. My dad looks at my report card. He's like, what the hell? And then he's like, I'm telling him, Dad, I don't really need this stuff. I was like, and he's like chewing me out. Like, listen, Dad. Listen, you got stinking thinking, all right? You need to check up from the neck up. Yeah. I ain't trying to be like a JOB, jackass of the boss. Yeah. I'm not trying to go to jail with the handcuffs, all right? I was just rattling them off.
Yeah. Man, you were in there.
I was in deep. I was like, I'm surprised some of my friends didn't like disown me because
Man, it was like that, huh?
No, because some of them were. I remember my I had one of my close friends. He got married really young, and he was like engaged to some girl, and he wasn't like, this is a scam, whatever, yada yada yada. And I would just tell his wife, his fiance, I was like, your husband's a loser, right? he's a loser. You're gonna be broke as hell. You're gonna be broke, busted, and disgusted.
This sounds like a 19-year-old talk. It really does.
No, because you would go up and hear some guy who had made it.
Yeah.
Right? And they would be like...
Got that first person perspective?
No, they'd be like, I was sick and tired of being broke, busted, and disgusted.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, that sounds... And then you'd get super hype, and you'd go home, or I'd meet my classmates, some of them, and I remember I'd have my sponsor meet like one of my classmates, and they're like, yeah, I just want to be like in middle management at like some IT firm. And I'm like, that sounds lame as hell.
I mean, honestly, that perspective in and of itself, for you to be able to say that, is kind of valuable, honestly.
What?
Like, that's a good thing.
Oh, to go back?
To go back. Like, I feel like for your aspiration to be middle manager is at 19. Yeah. It's kind of like, man, that's really disappointingly low for yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because I don't know what that, I mean, maybe that's what their dad was. Yeah. That's what they saw.
Whatever.
Right? Because I tell myself now, even at 41, that, like, you have to push, like, I've got, even at the company I work at, like, I don't share my aspirations, but in my head, they're fairly high up.
Yeah, as it should be.
You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, because people could say, oh, you got to be director by the time you're 40 to hit this. Yeah, and I'm like, that's because you don't know anyone that's done it, or, sometimes because you hear about career tracks where people accumulate knowledge for like 10 years and then they hit critical mass and it just pops off, right?
Yes.
So I don't know, and I was talking to a coworker about yesterday. Yeah. Because I had to review like a process flow chart, and she's a year older than me. She's working like 6 days a week as like an hourly operator.
Man.
And I'm like, how long you been doing this for?
Yeah.
Like, you've been 15 years, and why don't you find something else? We're in a good company. You can find something else, like, 6 days a week,
Yeah.
for real? Doing this, like, freaking, this grimy lab work
Yeah.
all
For real.
day?
Can I add two
Sure.
things to that?
Yeah.
So on the first thing, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he changed the world after he turned 40 years old.
Right.
And it's like, whatever you can, I'm only 29, so hearing that, it's like, I can still do anything. I have limitless possibilities.
You're almost in incubation mode.
Yeah, basically.
You know what I mean?
I got to remind myself how young I am a lot of times.
Well, that's the thing. That's when I was told that the 23-year-old coworker of mine yesterday. It was like, dude, like, you got, and brown parents make it seem like
always, man.
When you're, I don't know if Arabs are like this.
Very similar. Yeah.
Like, I remember like freshman year of high school, uncles would tell me, man, what you do now impacts everything. Mm-hmm. Like, right, it's like you screw up now, you're dead.
Yeah.
That's
scares you for no reason.
Yeah, right, exactly. And then you're afraid to fail, and then you become very risk averse. Obviously, what you're doing with your business, not pursuing your ME degree, you got your degree, which is really hard. It's not an easy degree to get. I mean, I'm sure you got pushback from family, or they were like, "Are you sure you want to do this?"
Yeah, dude, there's always like pushback, even if it's not directly to me. I know that it happens. Everyone's got certain perspectives of things.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, as we wrap up here, I got to add the question I should have asked in the beginning. The name StoopidFit.
Sure.
Like, I've been trying to like analyze that name. I'll tell you what my theory was behind it. You can tell me how far off I am, or if I'm on. I figured it's called StoopidFit because you make getting fit stupid simple.
That's pretty spot on.
Yeah?
Yeah. That's actually right there. It's not really advertised much anymore, but like the tagline is "Fitness Made Simple."
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, no, I don't got it on here. Yeah. But it's StoopidFit, Fitness Made Simple. So yeah, it's making it easy. It's a spin-off of those for dummy books. I'm sure you remember the yellow ones.
Right.
Yeah.
And why did you pick the double O, like the wrong spelling?
Yeah, that's fun. I just don't take myself seriously.
Okay.
Yeah. I think there's no reason to make anything too serious.
Cool. Okay.
I'm a lighthearted guy.
Yeah. And what's in the future for you? You think in the next, like, do you have any in the next year, next 5 years, or are you just taking it one day at a time?
Yeah. No. Of course, I have goals and plans. This year, I think, is going to be a really big year in terms of development and what offers I'm going to be making.
Right.
The main thing is helping more people and also just expanding reach.
Right.
So right now, my main thing, previously, so far to this point, I should say, my main service was one-on-one coaching, right? Which is very limiting. I only work with 30 people at a time max, right? So that's obviously great. I'm helping 30 people, but that's only 30 people. So I'm trying to...
By the way, but those 30, is it like 3-month time frame, or does it depend on the client?
It depends on the client. I think my average retention is like 8 to 9 months.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's typically the amount of time to go through the 3-phase fat loss system that I offer.
Gotcha.
And do that. But so right now, obviously, I want to expand.
You're limited because you're the one person.
Exactly, yeah, I'm the bottleneck right now.
Right.
So I'm finding ways to help more people in a larger capacity, et cetera. And I'm also partnering with charity organizations right now. We're partnered with No Kids Hungry.
Okay.
So they feed kids across the country, across the U.S. specifically, give them money for cafeteria programs, make sure they have lunch when they get home, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So a portion of everyone that works with me,
Yeah.
and for a lot of other promotional stuff that I'm going to be going through over the next few weeks, they're going to be helping feed kids across the country too. So the main thing is really just help more people and expand the reach.
You know, have you thought about like hiring other coaches?
I have. I go back and forth about that. Ideally, I would like to hire another female coach.
Okay.
Ideally, another Muslima too, because most of the people I work with are Arabic, brown, North African, and Muslim. So already that's my main demographic. Obviously, I would help a lot more people if a woman was working with me. Women can be uncomfortable working with a guy a lot of times. So. That's probably the only vision I have for hiring another coach.
Right. And what about like having programming? Like I mentioned earlier, like the Alex Cortez, he has the like a skinny fat program, or like people have like sell stuff on like Gumroad now, right?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. There is a StoopidFit pocket personal training app in development. So everyone's going to get smart training programs for an extended period of time. I was actually going to post-show offer you an opportunity with that to try it out for free.
Okay.
Since you're already a gym goer anyway. And yeah, so training programs, I think, and I want to make it incredibly affordable so that someone that, like my 19-year-old self would have been happy to have access to that kind of information.
Now, with extremely affordable, so are you familiar with the guys from like Champion Method?
I am, yeah.
You know? So I think there's like $5 or something.
Yeah, it's not that affordable. It's
No, but like I feel like you got to make it somewhat painful.
No, 100%.
Like to pay because I've got it's like stuff I'm like, so right now we're talking about like I got to pay taxes and I'm looking through some of these subscriptions I have. It's like $15-20 that you're not really thinking about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it doesn't.
And then you're like not doing anything about it. Like it has to be enough. Like the whole Ahmed result, like because I paid a good chunk of money.
Yeah.
Right.
It gets a fire under your ass, dude.
Right.
You want to work. You can't throw that money away.
Right.
The success of my clients and the quality of the results that my clients got went up dramatically when my rates went up.
Right.
You know, not by coincidence either, because the stakes were just higher.
Yeah.
So it forced you to do the damn work more often, you know?
Exactly. I think, and as far as I know, when it comes to like food and stuff, nutrition, I've, you know, since you mentioned the Hungry and stuff, the charity, like, it seems like, you know, so like a lot of like the typical bodybuilder style, because you said that's how you kind of got started, that kind of routine is like, they clean, like what they call the boring food, which something I actually like. I make a really, if you got a minute, I might microwave you some of my air fried chicken breast.
I'm down.
I'll share some with you. It's just because to do a taste test.
Yeah.
You know, because I actually made some I actually made just air fried it like the other day.
Okay.
So, but like a lot of guys, and then they'll have super boring. Like I'll see some guys. I don't know if you know Small Aesthetics on Instagram.
Actually,
Ahmed Shulman. I don't think he competes. He's but like.
Oh wait, no, I do know.
You know, yeah. So I'll see his food, and it's like super boring looking, right?
Yeah.
Like cream of rice with like I think I eat cream of rice before going to the gym, but that's the only time because it digests quick. Other than that, I'm not really a fan of it personally, right?
I agree with you. I'm not
but he mixes up with like the fruits and greens powder. It just looks gross.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, those guys, the extreme bodybuilder guys, dude, they don't care about taste.
You know,
they just
and then they'll have their cheat meal. Like I'll see their like the Chris Bumstead and his like Subway's. I'm like, come on, Subway is your cheat meal? Like, come on, Subway sucks.
Yeah,
right?
Even the cheat meal is boring.
Right, your cheat meals suck, right? So I don't think it seems to me you're not much of you kind of like have a healthy relationship with food.
Yeah.
You eat what you want within context, right? But are there days where you're just like, you're just gonna like binge on something, or?
I never binge.
Yeah.
But you know, personally, I think one thing I tell a lot of clients is this is a quote from Alan Watts. He wasn't related to food at all.
Yeah.
But I felt like it was incredibly relevant. Enough is as good as a feast. I think a lot of people think that you need to have more of something to enjoy it more.
Yeah.
But you just need to have enough of it to have maximum contentment.
Well, till you're satisfied.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I think that's what it is.
That's the enough.
Because I think one time I told Ahmed when I had my program with him, after 90 days, I'm doing a cheat day. That 90 days, I don't think I cheated once. And I didn't miss a single workout. So that's how I was able to get it done. I was like 22 pounds down, right? And I was aiming for this goal. I saw some YouTube video. I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to go for 6,000 calories.
Man, that's intense. How did you feel after that?
I couldn't hit 6,000. I couldn't.
It's really high. That's a lot.
Like I remember I met my friend I told my friend who was like trying to hit me up for a while because I was like, because he was like, because you don't have your friends that like, well, I have my friends that I avoid purposefully.
Okay.
Because I know if I meet them up, we're gonna eat some trash food.
Yeah.
And I'm like, sometimes you want to try something new. There's something new in the neighborhood. Sure. You want to try it out. Okay.
Always.
But it's not like some random. Oh, we'll just go someplace random, and it's not like, yeah, man. I'm like, it wasn't really worth it. But this cheat day, I remember I met him up at Stacked.
Okay.
Right.
I like where this is going.
And then I went to the gym, and then I like went to Holy Buckets. And then I was trying to hit a burger like up in the like Lombard area late at night, and I remember I just couldn't make it. Was just like at a certain point you're not enjoying it anymore.
Yeah, because you're just forcing it.
Yeah, because like I don't know, Tim Ferriss talked about his whole cheat day philosophy and like his slow carb diet, like eating like what 5 boxes of Twinkies or something.
Yeah, man, I don't know about that, but generally speaking, I'm super anti cheat day.
Okay.
Just because of the whole relationship with food aspect, like you said. I feel like to further explain my philosophy, you can have any food you want anytime you want.
Right.
As long as you're enjoying it, you're content. No one meal is going to ruin how you look, right? It's a collection of meals. If every single meal you went to, like you explained that day, you did that every day, you're going to be pretty overweight pretty quickly, right? You're going to feel terrible all the time also.
Yeah.
Right? But if you did one of those things per day, you wouldn't feel too bad. And the rest of the meals were relatively healthy.
You know, I think there's, what was it? Last Saturday, I'll tell you something just happened recently, right? And I wasn't even going to like front about this.
Okay.
We had guests over, because my parents were in town last weekend, right? And so they just got back from Bangladesh.
Cool.
And then they flew through O'Hare, stayed here for a few days. Had some guests over Saturday that they wanted to see them, and they brought over like this. I don't know if you've seen that at Costco. They have it's the tuxedo mousse cake.
Oh yeah, I love that.
You know what I'm talking
about? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's delicious.
That cake is amazing. So it's like one of those cakes. You go to Costco bakery section and you're like, yeah, that looks damn good, but I'm not gonna buy that because like it's all on me to finish.
Exactly.
Right. So you never get it. So they brought it over. I had some, and then they're about to go home, and I was like, "You guys got to take like half of it."
Yeah.
And they were like, "The girls will eat it," and I was like, I saw the girls didn't like that because the chocolate was too rich for them, my kids. And then so they took like half of it, and I still had a big chunk. I probably had like 3 or 4 days worth servings left, right? So I asked my wife, "How'd you like the cake?" She's like, "I don't like it." I'm like, "Crap! I'm gonna be eating this entire cake."
It'd be like that.
You know what I mean? I was like, kids don't like it. And it'll just go bad. Like, the thing is, if she doesn't like some food, it's just going to go bad.
Right.
If I don't, you
Same
know
thing
what I
in
mean?
my house, yeah.
Right? So, I mean, I was fortunate. I don't know if I saw on my IG story, I was like, I waited out. And I was like, well, I think I wrote, don't cheat when you measure your cheats.
Yeah. It's easy to.
But actually, it was funny because I thought the calories would be a lot more than they were.
Oh, that's good.
It actually wasn't, because like when I cut a slice, and it was more than the serving size, but the damage wasn't as bad. When you look at that thing, it's super rich.
Yeah.
I was like, this slice could be like 400, 500 calories. I think it wasn't quite that. It still wasn't good.
Yeah, but
18 grams.
that's still not that bad either.
You know what I mean? Because sometimes, because I remember back in the day, when this is like really unhealthy me.
Okay.
Remember Men's Health had that like worst drink in America? You ever seen that?
Oh, I'm not sure. That sounds familiar.
Did you ever read Men's Health?
I haven't read the magazine. Like, actually, no, just the online blogs.
But okay, so probably because the magazine itself, this is like 15 years ago.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
So 15 years ago, like they used to have this every year, the annual like the best foods to eat for fast, like if you're on a go and fast food. But they also had the worst food in America, the worst drink in America.
What was it?
Worst drink in America was the chocolate Oreo shake at Baskin Robbins.
Wow.
And I think it was like 3,000 calories.
Wow.
So I remember, me being stupid.
Yeah.
After the day, I was like, well, yeah, I gotta try this.
Yeah.
Dude, I felt like the shakes after chugging it, because what you do is with the drink, you just suck that through a straw like really fast.
Yeah.
And it's just like you're just injecting that sugar
Instantly.
like really fast in your bloodstream.
Yeah.
Like you felt like what happened to me?
Yeah, you get heavy right away.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, that's like a one-time thing. So I would always do stupid things like that.
Yeah.
And I'd always troll, like back when I wasn't in shape. Like you'd always I'd always be the guy like, okay, New Year's, I want to get in shape. And then it would be failing, right?
Right.
So one year I was like, a couple years back, like 4 years ago, I was like, all you guys talking about New Year's resolutions, I'm just like, y'all are full of shit, right? Listen, I'm changing the game this year. This year, the goal was to get to 300 pounds, 40% body fat, all right? A 340 plan.
And that was the year?
So I didn't but I was telling other people to, so I'd see my friends lifting, like early January, and I would just message them on Instagram like, stop lying to yourself.
Yeah. Just bringing them down.
I was like, stop lying to yourself. Let's go get a shake right now, extra large, from Steak and Shake or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How long did you keep that up for?
I was just trolling. I wasn't really eating like that either,
okay.
But it was just like, but you know the whole thing about when this is really true. When you feel like you can't get anywhere,
Yeah.
and then other people. Well, and the thing is, it's not like my friends were. I'd see them year after year. I'd see myself year after year. Like, oh, I gotta get in shape. You're feeling like, man, I gotta get in shape. Man, I gotta lose some weight, and nothing changes, right?
Yeah.
And then they're posting on social media how they're gonna do this, and I'm like, stop lying to yourself. You ain't doing nothing.
Right.
I know you, right?
I hear that.
Let's go get a burger and a shake.
Yeah.
Right. So I was that guy. I was like that negative, like dude, like because I was like, hey, it ain't working.
Yeah.
And even now today, just to be funny, is people do message me sometimes and like sometimes you're like, oh, sometimes people are like, hey, do you have some time for a call?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you paying me, bro? Right? Or something. I was like, or they have all these excuses, and then I'll just tell them, oh, okay, well, and it's my personality. It's not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you're good, man. Just download the McDonald's app and just get yourself a couple McMuffins every day, and don't worry about it.
Why are you stressing yourself out?
Yeah, just why are you stressing yourself out? We all gotta die soon anyway. Just enjoy it, right? So it's not like, but I think they know that I'm not like. If they really want, like sometimes guys, and I'll finish off with this because I know we've been going on, like we were supposed to end like 15 minutes ago.
No, you're good.
A guy like came up to me. I think I was posting on IG where it was over the summer where I was I did the two a day. I did the USA BJJ back to back.
Okay.
Right. USA in the morning, then hit the jiu-jitsu, right? And then I went to some grad party, and my friend saw me that day. He's like, I'm gonna hire your coach. All right. I want to reach out to your coach because I tagged Ahmed in the in the thing, right? And so we're talking and stuff, and Ahmed, I hope you don't get mad at me for saying this. As I'm talking to my friend about what he needs and stuff, and he's like, well, I'm not trying to do this. I was like, I don't know if he actually reached out to you or not. I was like, you should probably talk to Jumha, StoopidFit. Because I think that's what you need. It's more customizable thing. Because Ahmed's style, I liked it. I don't know, but based on what you told me and what you can commit to, I don't know if that's going to work.
Right.
So
yeah.
I don't know if he actually reached out to you or not, but
I mean, I don't know, maybe.
Maybe he did.
It's possible.
Maybe
I'll ask
he did.
your name later,
But yeah, because I think that's where it was. But I just wanted because I think that's where when I saw your content and I was like, and I appreciate that you seem to like know how to be malleable because a lot of coaches are just trying to be. They're listen, if you're a one size fits all, if you're like this is your niche, your avatar, and they ain't gonna work, it's fine.
Yeah.
But sometimes coaches are trying to work with people that they know they aren't a fit for, but it's just a client and it's getting revenue.
That used to be a problem I went through. Where I would just, when I was starting my business, I was like, man, I just need clients. I'll work with anyone.
Right.
And unfortunately, I worked with people that I wasn't a good fit for.
Right.
And I wasn't qualified to help. Really,
right.
Yeah. So now I actually turn people away if I can't, or I refer them out to someone else.
Right, exactly. So I think that's where it's kind of like, because people aren't gonna I'm not gonna hire them to be honest. But if they're serious, I'm not gonna be like, sorry, I'm not gonna tell them, hey, give me money.
Yeah.
Unless I'm really like not trying to deal with this dude or something. Because sometimes people will try to like just pay you for free stuff.
Yeah.
And you gotta like kind of check that because your time is valuable, right? Obviously, time I invested with a coach. And I keep learning now, right?
For sure.
You're still going on YouTube. But I think the nice thing about a coach, as he told me, Ahmed told me, is like, it's not forever. I'm getting you set up to get you on the runway, and now you can run.
Yeah.
And then I got other clients. I got new people who know nothing. I got to go help.
Yeah. I always tell everyone I sign up, my goal is to have you fire me at one point.
For sure.
That's the whole focus.
And how can people reach out to you or find out more about what you're doing?
Yeah, dude. I'm on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram mostly at stoopid.fit.
Okay.
Stupid is with 2 O's.
Yep.
StoopidFit.com is the main website. And my DMs are always open. You can always reach out to me. I'm always happy to help.
How have you found TikTok?
I love TikTok.
Yeah?
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I've enjoyed video content. I used to do podcasts too. Transitioned fully to video. I just enjoy it more. And
so you're not doing your audio podcast anymore?
No, not at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
As far as your the TikTok, you're making content specifically for TikTok, or are you repurposing other stuff for TikTok?
I make purposeful short form content.
Yeah.
In that manner, so it's like I use it on Instagram. I use it on YouTube.
I've seen your alter ego with like the wig and all that.
Yeah. I was recording this morning at the gym with that wig, and it was way too busy for it because everyone was staring the whole time.
Wow.
But it's a lot of fun.
And like, where did that creativity come from?
It's just always been a thing of mine.
You said you don't take yourself too seriously, right?
Yeah, creativity is a big part of that. I've been called weird my whole life, and I always, shoot back and say I'm not weird. I'm just creative. That's my thing.
For sure. All right. Well, Jumha, appreciate you coming through, man. This is an awesome, fun interview. I hope you enjoyed it.
I had a blast, dude.
For our listeners out there, if you have any questions or comments, you can email me at info@sultansandsneakers.com. And then you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Although I don't really post a lot. I've been trying to do this whole Cal Newport digital minimalism thing. It's like Twitter. I just go on there like once a week. On my podcast Twitter, Sultans and SNKRS, I'll just post the episode when it goes up. And then I have my personal account where I just look up I just see what kind of drama is happening. Drop something and then leave for like a week. Right. So definitely check me out there, and you can email is probably the best way to get a hold of me if you have any questions or comments. It's my special guest, Jumha Aburezeq of StoopidFit. I'm your host, Mahin the podcaster, signing off. Assalamu alaikum.